What if I told you that you could use Grasshopper to actually manipulate and control your building information model in Revit? Well, that's what we're looking at today with Rhino.Inside for Revit. And this just came out and still in beta, but it came out with Rhino 7 recently. And there's a lot of opportunities to be able to open up the API for Revit and start to automate things. So today we're gonna look at one workflow to help automate some information to managing your sheets, to generate sheets, as well as maintain them with the right information you need in the Revit model. So if you haven't already, go ahead and download Rhino.Inside. The beta version is available. I'll leave a link in the description below, as well as some timestamps and tabs so you can jump ahead to different points in the video that you may be interested in. But we will be building this up from scratch, so I encourage you to open up a Revit project that has sheets inside of it, and then we'll go from there. All right, so to quickly demonstrate what this looks like on screen, I've got Revit open on the left here, and I've already fired up Grasshopper on the right. If you haven't done this already, make sure you launch Rhino right here in the add-ins tab, and then it's going to create this Rhinoceros tab up here in Revit. That's going to open up this menu here, and I've just launched Grasshopper. That's going to get you launched for Rhino.Inside. All right, so once you've done that, I've got some predefined views up here as well as some sheets at the bottom, and basically the script that is running in the background. Let me make sure it's working here. If I change any one of these views, I've set a certain floor plan type, and I've got different types here depending on the plan. So if I just change it to finish plan type, that's going to go there. It's going to rerun, and I've automated it to switch to the interiors discipline and maintaining that documentation. So what I've done in my sheets here is I have a couple project parameters that help me control the organization of my set, as well as I'm manipulating so this sheet stats discipline, and the sheet name we'll take a look at as well. So this is going to be a really useful workflow, and again, this is just scratching the surface. I know typically people have used Dynamo to help automate processes like this, so I'm doing this to help show how you can do a similar process in Grasshopper. Cool. So let's go ahead and dive in from scratch, and we'll go from there. So just hitting Control N to create a new graph. All right, so where is Rhino.Inside? Well, up in the params tab, we've got a bunch of Revit primitives here. That's a new area, and for Rhino.Inside. And then we also have this Revit tab up on the top here. And this is where we'll be spending the majority of our time. So just go ahead and hit that. And then just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and hit display, draw full names. And the first thing we want to do is access our sheets in our model. Okay, so to do that, just go over to this input dropdown and go to model categories picker. And there's a bunch of pickers there, but from experience, I know that the sheets category actually lives inside of here. And you're gonna have to go to this arrow at the bottom and hold it until you find sheets. And then we want to go ahead and get all elements in the sheet. So if we go to element and we say query elements, that is going to get all my elements. However, before I do that, I need to add a filter. Now, typically you'd think just put category in here, but you need to add one more step for how Rhino.Inside works. So we're going to go up to the filter tab, and we're going to create a category filter and just plug that categories into it. Now we've got a filter object and put that into the filter. Now, if I just double click, do quotes, hit enter, I get a panel. And now you can see I've got my sheets. So it's Revit view, that's the internal backend Revit speak, and it's pulling in all my sheets. Now, the difference here between Grasshopper and Dynamo is going to have that element ID directly on there. If you do need to get that, I'll minimize the just in case learning stuff, but basically you can always go get the information, and that ID is going to be on the element passport. So you can just plug in that element and you're going to get the unique Revit ID right there. And then there's also some GUIDs in here and whatnot. So if you do need that information, you just grab it from element and passport. All right, but we won't need it for this exercise. So the next thing I want to do is that's coming out just as a standard list. I'm going to go ahead and graft each of these so that I have control over each sheet by itself. And then just for simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and right click and say simplify, just so I have a clean branch structure here. Okay. So now I have each one of those on their own branch. Next, I want to go ahead and find all of the views that are on the sheet. So before I started this exercise, I had already gone through the process of placing floor plans on most of these sheets. You can see a few of them don't have it, but that's one of the prerequisites is I've already loaded up views on sheet. So to get that information out of the sheet, I'm just going to go up to Elements, Query View Elements. And that Revit view gives me a hint that this is the right thing to use. I could have also done element dependence, and that would have also got me the same information. But I'm just going to use this one. So if I just type in sheet to view, it's going to think for a second, and the output is going to give me my viewports, but it's also going to give me my title block. So I want just the viewports. So I'm going to go ahead and get another category filter to just return that. So go up to input and go to annotation. And if I just drop that down and go to the bottom, we have viewports right here. And now if I just put the viewport into category, now I'm filtering down to just the viewports. Cool. So now that I've kind of isolated my elements, I want to now create an association between the views that have been placed and the sheet that they live on. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and extract some information from these viewports. Now, if I wanted to see this as a test, I can click that, and I'm going to be trying to pull some of this property information, these parameters. And what I'm aiming for is this associated level right here, which is a built-in parameter, as well as the sheet name and the view name when we get some of this information. Okay. So, and the other thing I want to get is the actual, not the viewport, but the actual view itself. I'm going to pull the family and type of that. So to do that, we want to go up here to element and say get element parameter. And it's asking for a parameter key. Just one quick note on this. In Rhino speak, a parameter is called a key. And in Revit speak, it's just a parameter. So they're pretty much synonymous. So whenever you do, don't draw full names, you got the shortcuts. Whenever it says K, parameter key right there, see that little parameter key data type? Just know that in Revit, that's the parameters here on the left. Okay. All right, so let's go back to full names. So I'm gonna pipe my viewports into the element there. And I can do this two ways. I can either just type in with a string, just say associated level. That is case sensitive. And just pipe that in. That'll give me my return values. But I also want to show one more method. If you're not able to retrieve the information you want, and it's not here on the left, you can also go up to params and primitives, and then go to the parameter key right here. And this is going to be able to access every single type of parameter in the Revit model. So just right click on that, come down here to all categories, and if everything's listed, but I can simplify and filter that list by just going to internal, and I could do model for that associated level, which is in there somewhere. But the one I want to pull specifically that only is found through this route is the built-in family and type. So I'm just going to go ahead and find family and type right there. click off in space. And then just to keep things organized, I'm gonna go ahead and group that, right click on that group and just say family and type, just to kind of keep it organized. And I can go ahead and just alt drag a copy of this component here and just pipe in that parameter key. So now that's going to give me the actual floor plan family type. So there's the family and the type. Okay, so one more thing we want to do is I'm going to grab the view name. So I'm in here, floor plan. I'm going to pull out this information here, the view name. And that's going to help set up our sheet renaming process. So just alt dragging a copy, typing in view name, and then checking that everything's coming in. Great. Now I want to set up one more thing to actually pull out the sheet name. So I can just alt drag a copy here and take my sheets, put those in the element, and pull sheet name, again, case sensitive. And that's going to pull that in there. All right, now I want to create an association between the family and type and my sheets. Okay, so just to clean things up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and first, let's do the view name first. So to clean this up, I'm going to go ahead and just check my parameters here. And you can see I've got some different branches compared to my sheets, right? So I want to make sure those are aligned before I do any operations on them. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a match tree. And there's a bunch of different ways to do this. I'm going to use my sheets as a guide, and I'm going to use, and then just pipe my view names into the tree there. Okay. I also want to clean out the branches I'm not using, just to avoid any duplicate data. So we're only writing to the stuff that is applicable. And that's the reason these are empty, is because these three sheets don't have a viewport on it. And that's why they're not returning any values. So to clean that out, I can just double click and type prune. And I'm going to put my tree in a tree. And then I just want to say, quotes one, have to have a minimum of one item in the list to stay. And there we go. The benefit of doing prune is it keeps the tree branch together. All right, so we're going to repeat that process for the family and type as well, because we're going to use that as well. So I'm just going to type that data in. And so we've got both the view names and the family and type information. Cool. So now we want to just return only the branches that we're using. So to do that, I'm going to type in split and just do split tree. And this is asking for the masks. So I'm going to take my original sheet elements, and this is similar to filter Boolean mask in Dynamo, but I'm not going to do a breakdown comparing Dynamo to Grasshopper too much, but this is doing the same thing for us right now. But the only thing I need to do now is just get some true falses. Forget I said that. We just want to basically take only the branches that are in here and return those. So to get that information, I can just go to viewer, param viewer. The other option is statistics, tree statistics. And basically, if I just pipe this in, it's going to return the paths, which is what I want. I only need paths, which is what the viewer returns for me. So there's a list of the paths. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink that down and then use that as my masks right there. And then the positive is going to return this list of paths. All right, so now we have our sheets synced up here, and then our data from our views synced up there. Okay. All right. Next, we can go ahead and update our sheet names so they match the viewport name. So that was the first part, is I had a separate script running so that it was listening for the associated level and then renaming it accordingly. And then I'm propagating that up into the sheet after I do that. So to do that, we just go to Revit and we go down to Element, Set Element Parameter. Again, just like Dynamo, if you're used to that. Get and set are your best friends. And I'm going to update the sheets and I'm going to target the sheet name. Okay. And I could just as easily just take sheet name from back here and pipe that in to the parameter key. And now I just need the values I'm going to be putting in, which are right there. So this is basically just coordinating the name of the sheet to match the viewport it's on. Okay. So again, this is not the view number, it's just the sheet number, it's just the sheet name. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do that again. Feel free if you wanted to add any prefixes or additional information, just doing the ampersand is gonna bring up concatenate. And I can zoom in here and add additional data. So I could type in, you know, whatever I wanted and take the original view name and then concatenate in additional text, and that would start to add itself in there. So feel free to do whatever you want. I'm just gonna keep it the same as the view name. And as soon as I pipe this in, you're gonna see a change happen down here. And basically I did it in the previous exercise. So, so if that wasn't the case, it would update. So like, let's just do an example here. So if I was to take this level 2 right here, and I was to put that on A101 or A102, and just drag that on, and place it, you can see Grasshopper, because I have it still running, if I didn't have it running, I could lock and unlock the solver. But basically, it just auto renamed the sheet based on the view name. So I could do that as well and just say construction plan level 2, right? And I'm going to say no. And then it's going to go ahead and automatically coordinate the sheet name right there. So that's the power of what I'm getting at, is you can choose how you're coordinating your sheets and your views together, which is super powerful. Okay. And then likewise, the thing we're going to set up in a second will coordinate which discipline it's in. All right. So we got that. And now that the data has been written, it's going to pass those elements through. So these are our updated sheets. So the next one we want to set is our discipline. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is just set up a panel by just typing quotes and enter. I'm going to right click and say multi-line data. And then the reason I did that, I'll explain in a second. So I'm going to set this up for pretty much every discipline I anticipate in my set. So I'm going to do general dash dash, just dash dash, just because I want a delimiter, something that's easy to chop apart. You can do whatever you want. And then just say site, let's see here, site plan. And I'll explain this in a second. I'm gonna do architecture, dash dash, architecture, interiors, finish plan, interiors, furniture plan, and then finally landscape and landscape. Okay, what is going on here? Well, you could build this out as much as you want. What I've said is whenever you get furniture plan in the family type, assign interiors as the discipline. Whenever you see finish plan, assign interiors as the discipline. Whenever you see architecture, do architecture as the discipline. Okay, that's the gist of my intent there. So this could build out, and it's going to search this part of the list and then assign this value to that list. Okay, that's where we're going. So in order to start setting that up, I'm gonna go ahead and break that apart. So now that I've got it set up, I can just do split, text split right there. And if you're wondering where it lives right there in the built-in Grasshopper parameters. And I'm gonna feed that text in, and then I'm gonna double click, do quotes, and say dash dash as my delimiter. It's gonna break that apart. And the result is going to be this list where it's put each of these on its own branch there. And now I'm gonna go ahead and do item, list item, and plug this list in. And in one side, I'm gonna say return index 0, which is gonna give me index 0 right here. So if you see that, it's just giving me the first index right there. I'm gonna copy, alt drag this, and then just double click and say 2, and that's gonna return the associated text right there. And then one more step to just kind of clean this up. Oh, I guess I could have done this beforehand. I'll just make sure there's no white space. See how there's like some white space right there? Before I run this, I'm just gonna do trim. And that's gonna give me text trim right there. And that's gonna just get rid of any white space we have. So that just cleans that up right there. And then I'll just feed this into these lists. Okay, awesome. So now we want to see where this information is in our family and type way back here. So remember, we got the viewports and we extracted the family and type, and then we cleaned it all up. Well, now we can see that some of these say floor plan, some say landscape, some say finished plans, some say architecture. And that was on purpose, remember? So we select that viewport, double clicking in, we can set the type here. Okay. And the benefit of doing types is because in edit type, you can actually set the view template. So pro tip there. So now with this information feeding out, all we need to do is the equivalent of a Dynamo contains operation, which in Grasshopper speak is just match text. So I'm going to do match text. I'm going to feed that text in. And the thing we want to do, we're searching for, is this regex input. That's going to be what we're searching for. Okay. So just for simplicity, I'm going to flatten these because I don't need them grafted. That's fine. And I'm just going to search for these values here. Okay. So go ahead and pipe your output into the regex. And that's going to return a bunch of true falses. Okay. And what this equates to is this list. It's running each one of these against each branch here. So within branch number 9 here, it's going to test for all 5 of these. And then if it returns true, which should always only return true for one of these, then I know, like in this case, number 1 is true. So it's architecture. Okay. All right. So to apply that information to my sheet, I need to also do a parameter key. So I'm going to just go up to Revit, go over to element, set element parameter once again. And for now, I'm just going to go ahead and just disable it by middle mouse clicking. And I'm going to feed those elements in here in a second. And then the parameter key I'm going to apply. I know because this is my my custom project parameter, but I'm going to say sheets dash discipline. Okay. And I can just double check that real quick. If I go back to my sheets here, just double check you're doing this case sensitive. Okay. And I'm just doing this one, sheets dash discipline. If you haven't already done that, I'm assuming you have, because most people in their firm have already done something along these lines. You can go up to manage and go into, I want to make this big for a second here. You go up to project parameters, and then you can see I've added those 4 different ones. You just need to add it as a parameter and then apply it to sheets down here. So just apply it to the sheets category, give it a name, project parameter, and make sure it's text type, instance, and then pick wherever you group it. I typically group it under identity data and give it a name and hit OK. And that will make it available inside your sheet object. So I'm not going to do it right now, just FYI if you haven't done that before. Okay. So jumping back to Alt-Tab to Grasshopper. Now what we need to do is just apply that to our key. And now we just need to make sure our values are coming in as intended. So how do we connect the dots here? Well, a couple steps. We just need to go over to list or sets right here and go under sets tab right here and do member index. And the member we're searching for is a Boolean. So just do Boolean toggle. And we're looking for anything that's true. So just double click that to set it to true. Put that into the member right there. And then I'm going to take this set, put that in. And now this returns to me which index I should be pulling. Okay. So now instead of this flat list, we're going to be pulling from this flat list. So that's the benefit of why we've created this key value relationship back here. This is kind of our legend per se. And now we've got that there. And now all I need to do is just do item, list item, and then take this list and put it into this with these indices. And voila, there's our values all lined up on the branches we want. The final step is just to make sure that we're all lined up on our branches. So I could do another match tree, but I know because these are super simple, I haven't done anything complicated, I can just simply right click and simplify this to line up my branches. And that's going to be simpatico. Going to be good lining that up there. Okay. So pipe those into the values. And now if I just right click and enable that, it's going to start to work for me. So let's do a quick test. So let's just say I want to add one more in here if I haven't already had it. So I'm going to do one more. I'm going to call it structural dash dash. I'm going to say look for structural in the family and type. And that's okay. I have the solver locked. And I'm going to go over here, double click in, and just go up to floor plan and say edit type. And duplicate that and just call it structural. Okay. And I could start to get smart and say structural framing plan. That's fine. Okay. Hit OK. Boom. Okay. So what that just did is it created this floor plans structural group here because of how I have my my browser set up right now. And if I just go back in to my graph and enable, we can see something just changed. So now A102, because I set the view type to structural, it now put itself as a structural discipline. Okay, so that we can do a separate follow-up video on how to rename these things if we want to continue to drive the view name based off of the view type. That could be cool. Guess that wouldn't be too hard to do. But basically that's the workflow, right? So now I can leave this running in the background. Go ahead and save that quick before I forget. Call that demo. Okay. And then I can start to work with it. So if I actually want these to in fact be architectural, I just go ahead and assign that. And then boom, Grasshopper is going to run that in the background for me and I'm good to go. So that is really all I want to talk about today. I'm pretty stoked about this because now I can use, I'm pretty stoked about this. I don't know about you, but I'm able to start to access the information directly in my Revit model using the branch data management structure of Grasshopper. And that's pretty stinking cool, I would say. So I'm planning to kind of build this out a little bit more, create some more robust workflows. But the thing I wanted to kind of get is that you can generate these things really quickly. I'm looking into how to generate views. And I think so far I haven't been able to create dependent views and assign scope boxes yet. Looking into that right now. But just from a general sheet management structure, this is really powerful. I'm curious to hear what workflows you want. So if you have a different approach in mind, you want to say, hey, I want it to be driven by this or by that. This one was the floor plan type is driving the management of the sheets. So I'm curious to hear what you want to learn next. We're going to be exploring Rhino.Inside in the coming weeks and months. Feel free to leave a comment what you learned. And as always, my friends, thanks so much for tuning in and stay curious. All right, till next time. See ya. Oh, and subscribe. Yeah, we're gonna be doing this a lot. Hit the little bell because you don't want to miss out. And if you haven't already gotten on our newsletter, the link at the bottom of the little banner, bimacademy.7fold.io. Get on our newsletter. You'll be made aware of when we're doing live streams, when we're doing new content on YouTube, but most importantly, course content. So want to be learning all this BIM stuff, all this architectural stuff in detail. So you got it working, ready for project use. And we're going to be doing all of that over at the BIM Academy. So definitely tune in for that, get on the newsletter, and I will see you next time. Later.